Welcome to yet another edition of the Stats and Stats podcast. For today, we're going over UFC Vegas 76, Strickland versus Magomedov. First things first, make sure you give this video a like, give it a subscribe, hit the like button over on Twitter, over on Instagram, over on YouTube, over on TikTok, wherever there's social media. There is a Stats and Stacks podcast. Let's go ahead and address the elephant in the room. We lost a lot last week, which kind of sucked with Zalgas. I mean, I knew Joshua Van looked good. He didn't look that good on tape. He came out and these young kids, man, they just turn up out of absolutely nowhere. So I should have stayed away from it. I literally said on the podcast last week that Joshua Van definitely shows promise. He's just not ready. Well, he was fucking ready. He came out and he did work, but as much as I hate to lose locks, we fucking hit a glory play, baby. Macy Barber round two finish. We called it plus 1200, made the entire night. We also hit on Jack Jenkins. Do I think he won that decision? Fuck no. Did I have money on it? Absolutely. So no complaining here. So it is what it is. It was a great night of fights. Ultimately, there were 14 fights. I had 2 or 3 wrong, I want to say. And it was just a profitable night. So we're looking to kind of do the same here, only hit on all of our locks this time, but some glory plays and some underdogs as well. It's a pretty interesting card here. It's a pretty fun card. It's back in the Apex, which kind of sucks, but hey, it's a free fight night. Can't complain here. I will never complain about free fights, baby. So let's go ahead and jump into the very, very first fight of the night. We're looking at Guram Kutaladze as a huge favorite here. Last time I checked, he was at minus 580, going up against Els Brenner at plus 440. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 120. Under 2.5 at minus 110. Let's just start with Guram, because Guram's fucking good, man. Guram's really, really good. He's a training partner of Hamza over at All Stars Gym. He has really good striking. That's his bread and butter. He is a great striker. But he's Georgian, and his last name is Kutaladze, so you best believe he can wrestle a little bit. It's not the greatest wrestling, but it's not bad. His cardio checks out. His jiu-jitsu you don't really see often. He's rocking a 77% takedown defense, which is good, especially because the 2 men he fought in the octagon were Mateusz Gamrot as well as Ismagulov. So those are Demir and Gamrot are really, really, really good wrestlers. He's a little hittable, which was shocking to me with how good his striking is, but he seems to give up small shots to land the large ones. Like everything is good about this kid. He just doesn't fight a lot. He's only fought twice in the UFC. He's 31 years old because he keeps getting hurt. He just has the injury bug. So I'm not going to say, you can't. First of all, you can't lock him because he's minus 580. We never lock anyone over minus 300. But I can't lock him anyway because I don't even know if he's going to fucking fight. He's so good. He's very, very good. Phenomenal striker, good wrestler. He can dictate where this fight is. And if he does get taken down, he can pop right back up. Only issue is he can just not stay healthy ever. And I thought he lost the Mateusz fight and he got the split decision win. But then I thought he won the Demir fight and he got that split decision loss. So it kind of evens out. But those are both top 10 guys in the weight class. And he's going to really close split decisions with them. So that really shows how good he is. On the flip side, we have Brenner, who looked really, really bad on the regional scene. But just like Joshua Van came in and looked a lot better in the UFC. But he's still not good. He's 25 years old. He's getting better each time, so you have to watch out for these kids. Again, I'm not locking Guram for part of that reason, honestly. But he has pretty good striking. He has pretty decent cardio. He kind of has that shoot to box style where he's willing to eat one to give one. He's pretty good volume. It's just his wins are a little questionable. Yes, he beat Zabira Tagulov. I don't think Zabira is that good, to be honest with you. Zabira also is more of a wrestler that likes to strike. He's a very just odd cat. And I thought Zabira won. I thought this was a little bit of a questionable split decision there. You can definitely back him up. He is not super comfortable when he's going backwards either. So for some of his bread and butter is striking. I don't really like him getting backed up and looking uncomfortable on the feet because he's not the best wrestler. He's not the best on the ground. It's just questionable. And even his wins, they're just very, very low level. Lost to Gabriel Santos, which is a good fighter, but all of his wins, I mean, they're just 3-1, 6-4, 14-15, 0-0, 1-1, 1-1, 2-0. They're 3-1. Like the guy he fought before getting into UFC was 3-1. Like why is he 12-3 fighting someone that's 3-1? It's a little questionable. So he hasn't beaten anyone good, and Guram is a huge step up. I know I sound like a broken record when I said this with Joshua Fan last week, but we've seen Elves in his debut in the UFC, and I wasn't overly impressed. So the pick is going to be Guram. The bet's going to be Guram, but there's no value there. So you're kind of chasing how he wins. He's not generally a finisher, but he might finish Brenner, to be honest with you. So the pick is Guram, and I would just parlay him. You can parlay Guram. All right, next fight of the night is just sheer grease. I know what I'm supposed to do, but I'm talking myself into doing the opposite. Alexander Romanov minus 135 going up against Blagoy Ivanov at plus 115. Over under set at 1.5. Over 1.5 is minus 205. Under 1.5 is plus 165. Let's start with Blagoy, because Blagoy looks like he's 56 years old, but he's only 36 years old. Very interesting. I was shocked with. It's kind of weird to say how young he is because 36 is not that old at heavyweight, but he has some wear and tear. You're going to hear them. Oh my God, you're going to hear about he was stabbed in the heart at a nightclub and survived. Like you're going to hear that at least 6 times in his walk out. So just be wary of that. He has a really good schedule. He's fought some top guys, man. He's fought Marcin Tybura, the De Lima, Sakai, Derek Lewis, Tai Tuivasa, JDS. Like he's fought some really, really good fighters. They're going to talk about his Sambo win over Fedor. They just say the same shit over and over with this guy. Yeah, it was an impressive resume back in the day, but he's 36 now and he has not looked good his last few fights. The Marcin Tybura fight, he just kind of gassed out, and he usually has cardio. Because he's so low volume. He has good striking. He has good wrestling. He is, I guess, okay jujitsu, but he just doesn't throw. And he just uses his wrestling to stay on his feet. He doesn't take you down. He uses his wrestling to counter wrestle and stay on his feet and then stare at you. He doesn't throw at all. He's a little hittable because of that, too. He gets hit more than he dishes out because he just stares at you because he has a legendary chin. He might be impossible to knock out. Like this guy it's insane. But he's just slowing with age, and this approach isn't going to work forever. I don't know. And like I said, his last few fights lost to Derek Lewis in a close fight. Augusta Sakai lost. He's no longer with the promotion. De Lima is a former light heavyweight, and then Marcin Tybura is a little overrated. So he hasn't really done much recently, to be honest with you. But on the flip side, we have Alexander Romanov, who I thought was going to be a future world champ at one point until I realized how bad his fucking cardio is. Like his cardio is atrocious. He's 16-2, but coming off of 2 straight losses. They gave him better competition, and he's struggling up there. And it's mainly just because of his cardio, man. He has freakishly good wrestling, probably the best wrestling in the heavyweight division. Like, no sarcasm. This dude is an absolute animal. His jiu-jitsu's okay. It's not too bad. His striking, it's a little underrated. It's not that bad. People say he can't strike to save his life. The problem is he comes out here, he grapple fucks you, and if he can't put you away, then he gets tired and he's forced to strike. We only see him striking when he's tired. When he's not tired and he's striking, it's not that bad, to be honest with you. He's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage here. He's the better wrestler. I wouldn't say the better striker, but Blagoy doesn't throw ever, so he could probably land more. So Romanov is going to have more volume. He's going to be the better wrestler. It's just he has no cardio. And I know his last fight, he came in and had like 30 seconds worth of cardio against Volkov. That was just sketchy. I've never seen it that bad before. In the 2 fights prior, we saw him against Chase Sherman and against Marcin Tybura. He was weighing in light. He was weighing in at like 240. And then all of a sudden he was back at 265 in his last fight and had 0 cardio. So I need to watch weigh-ins and see what version of Romanov we're getting. The right thing to do is to fade the poor gas tank. And bet on the guy that's never been finished that has somewhat of a gas tank. Like that's what common sense says. That's what Vegas is telling you to do. Like in regards to a line, you should bet Blagoy. But Romanov is such a dominant wrestler, and Blagoy doesn't exactly do much when he does get taken down. His ground game's not that good. He's not really a submission threat. So if he can't get up, if Romanov wins this fight, it's gonna be in the first round probably. So the way I'm gonna play it, I'm gonna bet Romanov, to be honest with you. And then if it makes it out of round one, I'm live betting Blagoy because I love Romanov. I know he's fading. He's still my boy though. You never turn your back on your boys. So I'm gonna pick Romanov. I'm gonna bet Romanov, but I am going to keep my eye out on that live line. If it's something ridiculous, I'll just have money on both ways. But as of right now, I'll pick Romanov. I'll bet Romanov, but do not parlay that man. For the love of God, don't parlay him. All right, next fight of the night. We are looking at Joe Anderson Brito. God, why is this fight happening? We're about to witness a murder in the octagon. We have Joe Anderson Brito at minus 1250 going up against Weston Wilson at plus 800. Over 1.5 is plus 205. Under 1.5 is minus 255. Who do we start with first? Let's start with Weston Wilson. Because Weston Wilson's taking this fight on short notice. When you look at this guy, he doesn't exactly look like a fighter because he isn't. The way you think he fights, contingent on how he looks, is exactly how he fights. He's trash. He's not good at all. He's not UFC caliber. He's 34 years old making his debut. His jiu-jitsu is very questionable. His striking is okay. He's kind of one of these karate guys, but it's not that good. He's a hittable. Like, he's a karate guy that gets hit all the time. That's not a good recipe. He's been knocked out multiple times. He's been submitted multiple times. He has zero wrestling. He has zero good wins. I mean, the last guy he fought was 8-5. So that's, I mean, it's not good. It's not good at all, especially if you're going to go and fight Joe Anderson Brito. Let's see. He fought someone with a 9-19, 4-3, 11-9, 5, 6-3, 2-3, 6-4. These aren't good records. None of these people are in the UFC. It's just terrible. He's fought nothing but bums, and he's losing to some of them. He got Gogo plotted, for hell's sake. Oh my God, he got Gogo plotted. So yeah, he is not good by any means. Not UFC caliber. He's just there for a paycheck, and he's a warm body. Joe Anderson Brito, he is good. He has good jiu-jitsu. He has good wrestling, surprisingly. He's only 28 years old, so he's getting better and better. But his bread and butter is his striking, because this dude hits like an absolute truck. One of the hardest hitters in the weight class. Does he have cardio? No. That's where his issue is. He does not have any cardio whatsoever. He gets tired out. He's got 10 minutes of cardio, and he is absolutely gassed in the third round. Good news for him is it is not going to take him 3 rounds to deal with Wilson. I mean, we just looked at how good Chepe looked last week against Trevor Peek. Joe Anderson Brito went out there and starched that guy in how long? 40 seconds. So if that's any consolation, yeah, he is an absolute tank. He knocked out Andre Fili. He submitted Lucas Alexander. This guy is just an absolute finisher. I don't think has he ever won a decision? Nope. All finishes. So yeah, he's in the absolutely. Oh, he has one. Yeah, but he's probably gonna kill Weston. So the pick is gonna be Brito. The bet is gonna be, God, you have to pick your poison. Round one is probably the only thing that's even worth it, because minus 1250 ain't even worth it. So the pick is Brito. The bet is gonna be him round one, because that's the only way to play it. Next fight of the night is a weird one. We have Ivana Petrovic at minus 215 going up against Luana Carolina at plus 185. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 is minus 235. Under 2.5 at plus 190. Let's start with Petrovic, because I think she's overrated, man. She's 6-0. She's someone that they deem as marketable. 29 years old, making her debut. Her wrestling's okay, I suppose. I mean, it's not hard to be good at wrestling in women's MMA currently. If you have any semblance of wrestling, you're probably going to get the takedown. Her striking's all right, but she's a little hittable, and she's chinny, man. She gets dropped all the time. She's 6-0, but she has that Usman chin where she's not going out, but if you tap her right, she does get knocked down frequently and often in almost every fight. I've seen this girl knocked down 3 times doing fight tape, 3 different opponents. She's only had 6 fights. Half of her fight, she has been knocked down to the ground and almost finished. So that's very concerning. And speaking of which, she's not exactly getting past the best level of competition. She's 6-0, but the girls she's fought 7-1, that's fine. 2-0, not the greatest. 5-4, not the greatest. 2-0, not the greatest. 0-0, not the greatest. 0-0, not the greatest. So I don't know, man. She's not that good, to be honest with you. She just wants to take you down and she wants to finish you. That's all she wants to do. So if you have any sort of takedown defense, you're probably going to be fine and you might finish her. And a la Luana Carolina. Luana Carolina is not that good either. I faded her quite a bit. I picked Molly Meatball McCann against her. I picked Joanne Wood against her, and I'm gonna pick her here mainly because she has 78% takedown defense, which is a good number, especially going against someone that all they can do is wrestle. Her striking's good, man. It's not. It's kind of unconventional. It's weird. It doesn't look the greatest, but it's effective. That's all you need to be here. Her cardio checks out. She can be a little chinny herself, but Ivana, again, doesn't really have that good of striking. The only problem with Carolina is that she doesn't have any power. So, like, if she had any type of power, I would choose her inside distance, and I would feel great about the number I'm getting. But she doesn't have a ton of power. I don't know if she needs it against Ivana since she has such a bad chin. I don't know, man. I'm not going to get too fancy here. I think this is a bet the girl that's fought in the UFC 4 times ordeal. Let's see. Oh, she's fought more than 4 times. She has fought in the UFC. Oh my god, I didn't realize that many times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Give me the UFC vet at plus 185. The pick is Luana. The bet is Luana. On to the next women's MMA fight. Let's get them both out of the way since I seem to struggle with these. We have Carol Hossa minus 165 going up against Yana Santos at plus 140. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 is minus 315. Under 2.5 plus 245. Let's start with Carol Hossa because Carol's good, man. I like Carol a lot. I don't like her going up to 145. This is going to be the second time that she's going to fight at 145. She's in a very close fight against Norma Dumont, which is interesting because I think Big Norm's my girl. She's a little biased. I'm a little biased, but she's good, man. Rosa has high volume. She has good striking. She's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. She has decent wrestling. She's really got the entire package. She's got good cardio. It's just her takedown defense is only 68%, so Sarah McMahon was able to take her down and control her. Norma Dumont was able to get her down at one point, and she has no power. That's the problem. She does these little pitter-patter shots, and you can crack Carol Rosa from time to time, so she doesn't really do much wrong. If she could put on some muscle, she wants to go to 145, whatever, have at it, but please put on muscle, because if she had any semblance of power, she'd be an absolute killer. She's 28 years old. She's kind of filling out. She's entering the prime of her career. She really does virtually nothing wrong. She just has a tendency to have a minor brain fart in there. Her fight IQ is okay, but she'll struggle from time to time. She'll play jujitsu when you get her on her back, though, and I don't like that. She needs to just get the fuck up. On the flip side, we have Yana Santos, and I don't think we really have to worry about that because Yana can't wrestle herself. She is also predominantly a striker. Now, she also is a little chinny, and she's rocking an even worse takedown defense at 45% takedown defense. And if I'm really looking at her record, to be honest, she has some questionable wins here. She has a win over Ketlin Vieira, which looks good on paper, but I don't know how they gave her that win. It was kind of sketchy, to be honest with you. Ketlin was on top of her for 13 out of 15 minutes, and Yana was just throwing little pitter-patter shots off her back, and they gave her the win, so that was very questionable. Julia Stoliarenko is not really UFC caliber. I keep betting and winning with her, but she's not that good. All she has is an armbar. She beat Marion Monroe, who is like 80 years old. Lena Landsberg, who is like 70 years old. And yeah, those are her UFC wins. So not the greatest comp. And then even before that, Yanan Wu, yeah, it shows she's 8-0, but she made it to the UFC and she was god awful in the UFC. She also, and then all the rest of the girls she fought were 0-0, 0-0, 0-1, 4-0, 0-0, 1-0, 2-2. So she really, if you really look at her entire career, I think her best win is Lena Landsberg. She's not a good fighter, so that's questionable, to be honest with you. And don't get me wrong, her losses, Irina Donna's a stud. Holly Holm is stud. Aspen Ladd, not so much. Chris Cyborg, stud. Tanya Evander, not so much. So, I mean, the people she's losing to are honestly pretty good. The people she's beating are honestly pretty bad. Carol Rosa somewhere in the middle, but Yana just doesn't feel like she wants to be there anymore. It doesn't. It just looks like the fire is gone, unless she's on the juice that her husband is on. Because I mean, Tiago just got suspended from PFL for being on the gear. If Yana's on that same gear, maybe she comes out and looks phenomenal. But if she's not, she's probably going to get her ass whooped. And you're getting a good line on Carol Rosa. So the pick is going to be Carol Rosa. The bet is going to be Carol Rosa. I'll probably end up parlaying her a bit. All right, next fight of the night is going to be a controversial one. We have Kevin Lee at plus 175 going up against Renat Fakir-Dimov at minus 205. Over 2.5 is minus 135. Under 2.5 at plus 105. Let's be honest with you. Renat Fakir-Dimov is a fraud. I think he's fucking terrible. I'm the only one that feels this way. I don't know what it is that people aren't seeing. He's not good. His wrestling's okay. His wrestling's pretty good. I'll give him that. He's very low volume on the feet, and his striking is very robotic. He has a ton of power. He has a ton of power in those hands, but he doesn't fucking know how to use it. He's not a good striker whatsoever. And his wrestling, it looks phenomenal, but look at the guys he out-wrestled. Brian Battle, who has 40% takedown defense, and he out-wrestled Andreas Michailidis, who has 40% takedown defense. These guys are notoriously getting taken down. They're not wrestlers. Yes, you can go out and look like you're the best wrestler in the world when you're fighting people at 40% takedown defense on the regional scene. The fight to get into the UFC was against Eric Spicely, someone who was in the UFC and was notoriously known for being one of the worst fighters in his weight class with one of the worst chins. And what happened? He knocked him out in 50 seconds. Big whoop. That's what everyone did to Eric Spicely in the UFC. Before that, the only other guy he fought that was UFC caliber was Alberto Uda, who was also proclaimed as one of the top 5 frauds in the UFC in this weight class ever. So he fought 2 of the biggest frauds to ever make it to the UFC. Those are his best wins. The rest of his wins, the guys were 9-4, 1-1. I mean, he was 14-2 at this point. Why is he fighting someone that is 1-1? The next fight, he fought someone that was 3-3. Fight before that, he fought someone that was 0-0. He was 13-2. He fought someone that was 0-0. The fight before that, he was 12-2. The guy was 0-0. Before that, he was 11-2. He fought someone that was 1-1. The fight before that, when he was 9-2, or sorry, 10-2, he fought someone that doesn't show a record. We have no idea if this person was actually a professional athlete. 0-0, 2-1, 0-1, 1-2, 7-1, and he lost to that guy. 2-0, 0-0, 0-2, 0-1, 0-0, 5-1. Anytime he fought someone with a winning record, he fucking lost. Anytime he fought someone that was had an 0-0 record when this guy's 15 fights into his career, he dominated. Yeah, of course it's easy to look good. So he's fought nobody on the regional scene. He physically looks terrible on the feet. And then when he gets to the UFC, he looks like a good wrestler, and he's fighting people with some of the worst takedown defense in the weight class. And Brian Battle took that fight on short notice, missed weight because he should probably be up at middleweight, to be honest with you. Like, there are so many red flags with Renat. He is so overrated. He's not that good. And I am determined to fade Renat until it pays off, because he's going to continue to be a huge favorite because they're trying to give him the Hamzat treatment. They're trying to give him the Shavkat treatment. He's different. He's not the same. He's the worst version of those two. He's not that good. But he's fighting Kevin Lee, and Kevin Lee is a lightweight. So Renat, I keep saying, keeps getting the best schedules ever. Fighting people with bad records, fighting people that never fought before, fighting people with no records, fighting people with no takedown defense. Now he's fighting someone that's not in the right weight class in Kevin Lee. Kevin Lee is a great fighter. He is a good wrestler. He's a pretty decent striker. He's a little chinny at times, so it does concern me about his power. He's coming off of a leg injury. They tore his ACL or something like that against Diego in the Eagle FC matchup. This gas tank's a little questionable. Does it look better at 170? A little, but again, this isn't his weight class. He is a size bully. He at one point fought for a title. Like, Kevin Lee is the real deal. He's a very, very good fighter. He's 30. He's in his prime. The thing is, he's just coming off a serious leg injury up a weight class. I don't like it. I don't like it. I like Kevin Lee, and he's gonna have a 3-inch reach advantage here, which is nice. He's 75% takedown defense, so if Renat can't take him down and has to strike, I kind of like that too. It's just Kevin Lee. is a little chinny, and he's up weight class trying to wrestle. It's as we're not written all over it again. But Kevin Lee is also not doesn't have a negative record, so history shows that he should probably win this fight. And if Kevin Lee looks or sounds familiar at all, if you know Keith Lee on TikTok, that's his little brother. So he's also going to be in the corner. So I don't know. I just told myself I will never bet Renat. I will continually fade him as a minus 300 favorite in every single one of his fights until it pays off. He's fighting a legitimate guy. Is Kevin in the wrong weight class? Yeah. Am I going to bet him anyway? Yeah, because Renat's a fucking fraud. So the pick is going to be Kevin. The bet is going to be Kevin Lee in his return off injury. Let's get it. All right. Next fight of the night was one I was really excited for until I wasn't. I have Nursultan Rizboev. Sorry, I can't really say it at plus 160, going up against Bruno Ferreira at minus 190. Over under set at 1.5. Over 1.5 plus 170. Under 1.5 is minus 210. Let's start with, you know what? Let's start with Nursultan, because I was excited for this kid. When you just look at this kid on paper, he's nasty, man. He trains at he's one of the Philly boys at Hendo Gracie Philly. I'm training over there with Sean Brady, with Joe Pfeiffer, with Jeremiah Wells. You look at his record, he is a finisher, baby. He has a ton of fights. Oh my God, over 50 fights. Most of his wins are by submission. So you think, okay, he's a Cesar Gracie guy. He's training with good guys. He has most of his wins by sub. He has to be an absolute stud. He's fucking not. He's not the fight tape terrible. I don't know who he's fighting, but the guys he's fighting, I mean, I guess when you look at their records, you can kind of see they're 12-12. It's kind of a Renat factor. He fought this guy who was 15-2, but he did not look 15-2. 4-4, 10-8, 20-24, 26-24, 0-1. You were 24-7 and you're fighting someone that's 0-1. Like, what sense does that make? You were 24-6 and you're fighting someone that's 0-0 making their debut. Like this, he does the same thing as Renat, and this is such a padded record, and I can't trust this guy. He also fought someone that does not even show a record. So it's concerning. If you don't have a Wikipedia page, it's suspect. So I don't know. I don't see any notable wins on his record. The man has fought 50 times, and I see 0 notable wins. I do also see losses of people that are 2-3 and 4-0. Like the kid's a little questionable, to be honest with you. He has okay jujitsu, but it is not what I thought it was when you read it on paper. On the flip side, Bruno Ferreira is actually the opposite. His jiu-jitsu is better than what you think. You look at him and you think he's just a power puncher. He has a judo and jiu-jitsu background. He is actually a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt, which was not familiar with me. I was not aware of that. I did fight tape on him. I did research on him for when he fought RoboCop. I picked him by knockout round 1 against RoboCop, which won me a ton of money. But I didn't realize he was a black belt, so that's good to know. This guy's name is the Hulk, and God, does he fight like it. This dude has power. He is 10-0. He has a good blast double, and when he gets on top, he has some of the sickest ground and pound I've ever seen in my life. He literally punches a hole through your face to the ground. Like this dude, it is frightening. If he's on top of you, just run or tap out right away. Don't let him hit you because it's fucking frightening when he's on top of you. Or if he's on the feet, because just ask RoboCop, he will put you out with a fucking jab. So this guy has a ton of power. He has good striking. His wrestling's good. His jiu-jitsu's good. His cardio, we don't know about because all of his wins are in round 1, except for one fight where he won 12 seconds in the round 2 and one fight where he won 1 minute in the round 2. So we don't know how long his cardio goes. But we do know is that he doesn't have to show it because he's finishing everybody. He can be a little hittable at times, but I'm not really concerned about Nursultan's stand-up. And if Bruno is literally also a jiu-jitsu ace, yeah, I think he's fine, and I think he's going to murder him. So the pick is going to be Fiera. The bet is going to be Fiera. And I have a bet on Nursultan just because I saw the line moving, and I just bet it real fast before I did fight tape. And man, am I disappointed in that ticket because I think the Hulk is going to kill him. Hulk is almost in lock territory. He should dominate this fight. All right, next fight of the night. Speaking of domination, we have Ismael Bonfim at minus 315 now, going up against Benoit Saint Denis at plus 260. Over under set at 1.5. Over 1.5 minus 175, under 1.5 at plus 140. Let's go ahead and start with Saint Denis because I think Saint Denis is another one that's just overrated, man. His striking's not good. It's god awful. It is not. I didn't realize how bad it was until he made it to the UFC. Obviously, there's the beating he took against Zaleski. Everyone's going to talk about that. Got the ref fired and yanked from the event on the spot for not finishing that fight. But his jiu-jitsu is real, man. His jiu-jitsu is actually very, very good. His wrestling's okay. It's not the greatest, but it's all right. It's just really his striking. He's hittable and he's chinny. Yes, they should have stopped that fight, but I also watched the fight against Gabriel Miranda, who also rocked him. And Gabriel Miranda is not a striker, nor does he hit hard. So I'm just a little concerned with his chin, to be honest with you. He does also slow down in his fight, so I'm a little concerned about his gas tank. So if you have a bad chin and a bad gas tank, it's very, very concerning to me. So I just kind of have to look on the other side and see if that's going to be an issue. And the answer is yes, because Israel Bonfim is a fucking killer. He has really, really good striking, very good counter striker. He has pretty good wrestling. He has good jujitsu. He has good cardio. He's 27 years old, entering his prime. He has good volume. He loves to move forward. Like, there's really nothing wrong with this kid. He's going to show a 19-3 record, but to be honest with you, he lost his very first fight, or sorry, his second fight against Adriano Moraes. Moraes is the guy that's over there going toe to toe with Mighty Mouse. So that's a thing. That guy is an absolute killer. He also lost to Jefferson Lucas by sub. Again, it was only his third ever career fight. And then he lost and got rear naked choked by Renato Moicano, who is also an absolute stud currently in the UFC. And let's be honest, that was back in 2014. That was 10 years ago. 9 years ago. But the other losses were in 2011, which were 12 years ago. So yeah, people are going to say, well, he's been tapped out and all three of his losses. That's true. But they were also fucking 12 years ago. He has since become a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt and improved his wrestling. So, yeah, his striking has always been great, but now he has wrestling and jiu-jitsu to go along with it. He has the cardio advantage in this matchup. He's going to be much smaller. I don't like that. I didn't realize how much smaller he was when I locked him, but fuck size when you have talent, and the size is going to be that big of a difference. So the pick is going to be Bonfim. The bet is going to be Bonfim, and I feel great about it. All right. Next fight of the night. We have sheer violence, baby. We have Ariana Lipski at plus 170 going up against the killer, Melissa Gatto minus 200, over 2.5 minus 130, under 2.5 plus 100. Let's start with Melissa because I was totally wrong about her. I thought she kind of sucked, to be honest with you, on the fight tape I watched. I thought she was bad coming into the UFC. She was young and she took, excuse me, sorry. She took a lot of time off, a lot of injuries. She had a PED suspension at one point, and she just didn't fight from 2018 all the way to 2021. 3-year difference. I was like, I don't really know how I feel about hers until I realized 2018. It's 2023. That was 5 years ago. She's 27 now, so she was 22 years old when I was watching this fight tape. She was 18 years old. Some of this fight tape I was watching. So I was definitely wrong because she came in and she beat the shit out of Victoria Leonardo. And I said, you know what? She's okay. She's okay, but I'm not a full believer. If they give her someone tricky, I'm going to bet against her. They gave her Sarge Eubanks, who was a tricky customer. Sarge won the first round, which was nice. But then she gassed out. And you know who didn't gas out? Melissa Gatto. And she's a lot stronger. She might have been on the juice a little bit again because she looked like an absolute tank in that fight and went out there and finished her in the third round. And I was like, you know what? I'm finally on Gatto, but if they give her someone that is like decent on the ground, I can get her down there. She plays jujitsu way too much for my liking. And they gave her Tracy Cortez. And Tracy Cortez did exactly what I thought Sarge was gonna do, what Sarge did do in round one. They took her down, controlled her, won the fight. The issue was she gave Tracy fits, man. She took Tracy down and showed good wrestling. I never saw Gatto in all the fight tape I watched. I did not see her do any blast doubles. She hit a nice one against Tracy. She had another takedown where she took her back right away. Tracy was just better that night and had good defense. Lipsky does not. Lipsky does not have good submission defense. So Gatto's an absolute killer. She can knock you out, she can tap you out, and now she's developing a little bit of a wrestling game, and that is not good for Ariana Lipsky because Ariana Lipsky is the one that got taken down by bad Shevchenko. Old ass Antonita got crucifixed and finished. She's the one that got taken down by Montana Della Rosa and got finished on the ground. She's the one that got knocked out by Priscilla Cachoeira. Like this girl has a little bit of a durability issue and a wrestling issue, which is not something you want against Gatto. Don't get me wrong, Lipsky is pretty good striking. Her jiu-jitsu is questionable. Her chin is questionable. Her takedown defense is questionable. She's also pretty hittable. But then she looked like an absolute killer against JJ Aldridge, which was weird. But JJ, I just come to the assumption isn't the best fighter in the world. All these girls matchups make fights. JJ, I did not believe in. She fought Erin Blanchfield and made me a believer in a loss. And then she showed to be the normal JJ that I thought she was in her next fight against Lipsky. So Lipsky did improve, but JJ also just returned to her bad JJ side. And I think it's they're overblowing that win. I think Gatto's going to absolutely kill her. And I actually like the under in a women's MMA fight. It's plus money, but it's only plus 100. So Vegas knows. Usually unders in women's MMA is a lot higher. But Vegas definitely knows that Gatto's probably going to kill Lipsky. So the pick is Gatto. That's going to be the under. Take the under and cash a plus money ticket instead of minus 200 on Gatto. All right. Next fight of the night is another one I feel pretty confident in. We have Max Payne Griffin at plus 195 going up against Michael Morales at minus 230. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 155. Under 2.5 plus 125. And this is the definition of changing of the guard. Michael Morales is an absolute stud and someone that the UFC wants to push. He's got a shiny 14-0 record. He's only 24 years old. He has the Ecuadorian background where he can just cater to that audience. He has really good wrestling. He has really good striking. His striking is very explosive and it's good. I wouldn't say really good, but it's good for a 24-year-old. His jiu-jitsu is perfectly fine. He's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage here. And he's a finisher. He's everything the UFC wants. Someone that can wrestle, someone that can knock you out, someone that can be flashy, someone that can be marketable, someone that's young, someone that can carry the torch. Like he is who the UFC wants to win this matchup. He is just an athletic freak and he's undefeated. He's got the shiny record. He's starting to stockpile some wins against some decent guys. The guy he fought in the Contender Series is an absolute stud. So winning that fight was nice. So he's beaten Russians. He beat Trevin Giles, who's a savvy vet. Then he beat Adam Fugit on short notice, and Adam was game, but I don't know, man. He went out there and absolutely killed him. He was supposed to fight Renat. I would have loved to see that fight. Michael would have beat the shit out of Renat. But Michael's just good. He's younger. He's a little hittable, and he makes some mistakes because he's only 24 years old. But he's not like one of those 21-year-old kids that are going out there and just getting caught and stuff. Like he just has a little mental lapse and then he kind of picks it up. We had the complete opposite for Max Griffin. Max Griffin is not a terrible fighter by any means. He has pretty good wrestling. He has pretty good striking, pretty decent power, 71% takedown defense. My question with him is that he's 37 and he's slowing down a little bit. He's not looking the greatest. And when you look at his UFC wins, they're not the greatest in general. Tim Means is an old man. He's 40 years old, and he went to a split decision with him and fought tooth and nail. That's concerning. He lost a split to Neil Magny that I thought he won, but Neil Magny is also old and starting to deteriorate a little in front of us, so that's not a good look. He beat Carlos Condit, but let Carlos Condit come back and win the third round, and that's old Carlos Condit. Not a good look. He went out there and knocked out Kenan Song. Nan Song is one of the worst UFC fighters in the weight class, so who cares? He exploded Ramiz Brahmajan's ear, and Ramiz isn't exactly the greatest fighter in the world, and Ramiz is very, very good on the ground, but he can't really wrestle, and he has no striking whatsoever. So Ramiz shot 0 takedowns in that fight. So I don't know what was going on there. Max just went out there and did what he was supposed to. I was not that impressed. Alex Oliveira, split decision loss. Alex isn't that good, but he's actually a lightweight. Alex Morono, he's all right, but Alex Morono should also probably be making lightweight. and he's just okay. Zaleem is one of the biggest frauds in UFC history, not by weight class, in history. Thiago Alves was still old at this point, should not be losing that fight. Curtis Milner, one-dimensional striker, has zero takedown defense, should not be losing that fight. Mike Perry, trash of the UFC. Alessa Selesky, no shame, good loss. Uh, Eric Montano, not the greatest win. He's also cut from the promotion. Colby Covington beat the shit out of him. So, like, when you look at his wins, Mike Perry cut, Eric Montano cut, Zaleem cut, Ramiz, he might be cut. I'm not too sure. Kanan Song cut, Carlos Condit retired, Tim Means cut and retired. So, not exactly the greatest wins, to be honest with you. He's a little bit of a fraud. He's not terrible. I don't want to call him a fraud, but he's not as good as his record would show, and I think it's going to be a good showcase for the young kid. So the pick is going to be Morales. The bet is going to be Morales. Then that takes us to our co-main event of the evening. We have Damir Ismagulov at -130 going up against Grant Dawson at +110. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 -220. Under 2.5 at +180. Let's start with Damir, man. Damir's awesome. Damir's very, very good everywhere. Good record, 24-2. Good competition, fighting Arman Sarukian, fighting Guram, fighting Thiago Moises, Rafael Alves, Joel Alvarez. Like, these are good fighters that he's going up against. He has good striking. He has good cardio. He has good wrestling. He has good jiu-jitsu. He's fought good people, and he has a 2-inch reach advantage. Like, he has everything. He's a very, very good fighter. The only concern I have with Damir is that he talked about retirement. He never bet on retirement fighters. And I think he actually physically retired. And I think it was, to my knowledge, it was because of an injury. And the injury was so bad that he decided he had to retire. But I think he got it fixed, and now he's back. So it's very, very sketchy. If it wasn't for the retirement speech, I would have locked Damir Ismagulov. But I don't like someone talking about retirement and then putting money on them. That's just a loss waiting to happen. And on the flip side, we have Grant Dawson, who is the definition of one-dimensional. He's a very, very, very good wrestler, a folk-style wrestler, a lot of singles and doubles. Most of his takedowns, he shoots a double and then just gets you up against a cage and switches to a single leg and gets you down. Once he gets you down, he slaps in that body triangle and you go nowhere. And that's it. That's the round. Aljo Sterling. Or Aljo Sterling style. Just get you down, slap on that back pat, keep you there. Nothing exciting, doesn't always finish you, doesn't get ground and pound, doesn't even get submissions as of late. Just really, or he's gotten a few submissions as of late, but usually just holds you there. These third round submission when the guys are just trying to do anything to get out of there. Yeah, I don't know. He used to fight at 145. He went up to 155, hoping that would help with his cardio because he is someone that gassed out in all these fights. Even this draw against Ricky Glenn was solely on the fact that he gassed out and he had nothing left and he got 10-8'd in the third round because he was so tired. He slows down in his fights. His striking's getting better, but it's not good. Damir will kill him on the feet. He's very low volume. And he has 40% takedown defense. Some of that is by design because he wants to go down to the ground so badly. But I don't know if he wants to do that with Damir. Damir's is a good jiu-jitsu practitioner, and he would love to be on the ground, but he'd rather be on top. I don't think he wants to be on the bottom of Damir. So it's going to come down to, can he take Damir down? The question is, the answer is I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. It's going to come down to wrestling. I think Damir's a better striker. I think he's just as good on the ground. He has the more cardio. So I'm definitely going to pick Damir. I'm going to end up betting Damir. Especially now because these lines have flipped and it's a -110 pick 'em, and Damir might end up being the dog. So if you see a plus sign next to Damir, you better hit that fucking button because he's the better fighter. It's just he retired, and I don't know how this takedown and defense is going to be against Grant. So the pick is Damir, the bet is Damir, but sit on it and wait for that line to flip because Damir might be a dog, and that'll be the best dog on the card. And that takes us to the main event. Again, if you haven't already, what's wrong with you? Make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe, give a follow over on Twitter, over on Instagram, over on TikTok, wherever there's social media. There is the Stats of Stacks podcast. We had an interesting main event here with Sean Strickland, -175, going up against Abu Magomedov at +150. Over under set at 3.5. Over 3.5, -135. Under 3.5 at +105. Let's start with Magomedov. He's good, man. He has good striking. He has a 2-inch reach advantage. He has good wrestling. He has a good record at 25-4-1. You're gonna ask, why is he getting a main event already? Because he's a PFL guy. He's already established. He's fought for $1 million, I think, multiple occasions. He's good. He's very, very, very good. He's one of these. He's Russian, and he went over to Germany. He might be Dagestani, to be honest with you. So again, good striking and good wrestling. He reminds me a lot of he's like a skinny, more athletic Magomed Ankalaev, to be honest with you. He has pretty decent jiu-jitsu. He's good everywhere. He's fought good level of competition. He packs a serious punch. He's pretty much a finisher. You look at most of his records, they are by finish. Is his chin questionable? Yeah, I've seen him rocked a few times, and he got knocked out once. But at the end of the day, he's overall just a really, really good fighter. Like, the only con I have on him is he can slow down. He doesn't gas out per se, but he does have a tendency to slow down. And this is going to be a 5-rounder. So that is definitely something to keep an eye on, because Sean Strickland does not slow down. Sean Strickland has really, really, really good cardio. It's actually the bread and butter, the best part of his game. He has good striking. It's unconventional. It's one of a kind, but it works for him. He has high volume. He has sneaky good jiu-jitsu. Like, Sean is actually very, very, very good on the ground. He just never uses it because he doesn't really wrestle, even though he can wrestle. He's a pretty decent wrestler. He just refuses to do it. He's fought a really, really, really good schedule. He fought the former champion Alex Pereira. He fought Imavov in his last fight. He fought Jared Cannonier. He fought Jack Hermanson. He's fought Uriah Hall, Brendan Allen, Kamaru Usman, Alessa Selesky. He's fought the who's who, Santiago Ponzinibbio. Like, he has a really, really, really good level of competition here. I like everything about the guy. He doesn't pack a ton of power. So if he gets a win, it's going to be by decision or a very, very late finish as Magomedov starts to fade. Or he can go out there and get cracked. And we've seen it more than once. He has 5 losses. Technically should be 4, because I thought he won the Jared Cannonier fight. But outside of that, his other 4 losses, we did 2 of them. 2 of them are knockout, man. He got knocked out by Pereira, and he got knocked out at 170 against Eliza Selesky. So I don't know. Is he chinny? I wouldn't say so. He took all the punches from Jared Cannonier, but I don't know, man. It's a really, really close fight. I have a bet on Magomedov just because of the line, but I'm starting to lean the Strickland direction. So what I'll probably end up doing is just putting Strickland in most of my parlays and just hedging with Magomedov, as always. If you give me enough money, I'll do it. So the pick is going to be Strickland, but the bet is going to be Magomedov. Or Strickland in parlays, contingent on how you're doing that night. And that is UFC Vegas 76. Earlier start time at 4 p.m. Keep an eye out on it. It's going to be an interesting card. It could be a little lackluster, especially in the Apex, but it's free fights. There's nothing we can complain about. All we can do is win money and enjoy ourselves, baby. Let's get it.